Hello, my friends, and welcome to What's Up. I'm John Petersen from the Arlington Institute, and Gregg, Braden, and I get together like this for an unstructured half-hour conversation every 2 weeks just to explore whatever is on either of our minds. And I'm happy to have you back with us again, Gregg. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm coming to you from the command deck of the
Yeah,
mothership here in the Santa Fe studio, and this is unstructured. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today.
right. And we here at the Arlington Institute are happy to bring this together every couple of weeks, as well as quartet and any number of other kind of program things that those of our viewers who are following this can learn more about at arlingtoninstitute.org. So what's up? What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, you and I had a brief conversation about there's so much happening in the world, John. It's easy to get lost in the weeds because we're inundated with Trump and economy and Ukraine and all of that. You and I are both system thinkers, and we tend to look for the common denominator and go to the core of whatever it is that's happening. And one of the pieces that is rarely talked about anymore is the science that suggests that we may in fact be living in a simulated
Yeah.
reality. So everything that we're seeing right now is part of that simulation, including the disclosure, including UFOs, life in other worlds,
Yeah,
all of those things.
it's like being inside of a big computer game, that where you've got these very complex AI-based kind of algorithms that allow, kind of an infinite number of branching possibilities. So you make one decision, then it reconfigures the world in another kind of way. And it's I've been thinking about that because I got exposed again the other night to another kind of proponent for this point of view, who has done a great deal of research and is very convincing that this is the way it goes. And the thing that's interesting to me about it is that it is kind of a minor emergent track and possibility in the kind of the spectrum, the panoply of options that most people think about in terms of thinking about the future.
So I think the important thing to really take from this and the truly disruptive piece is that if we are all sharing a simulated reality, it means we're part of that program. We're not separate from it. And it means that we have the ability to interface directly and influence, not control, not manipulate, but influence outcomes in our lives. We have the ability within us to influence what happens in our bodies, but what happens in our lives, in our world as well. So, and we see that happen 24,000 years ago. So we are in the early stages of that happening now. So if it happens, it doesn't mean that we're extinct because we have technology that we didn't have then. However, I think it's interesting the convergence of the physical dynamics that threaten us simultaneously with the spiritual dynamics that can literally save us from the kind of events that we've seen in the past. And this is one of those beautiful places, I think, where science and spirituality come together, because the science now is telling us what's happening, and they're looking for ways to prevent it. And they got some scary scenarios, out there to prevent it. Whereas the spiritual principles, many of them have reconciled themselves. They say, okay, it's the end of the world, just buckle up and here we go. But now there's a segment of the population that says, well, wait a minute. If we're in a simulation and we're a program within the program, it means that we have the ability to influence what's happening. And what is the influence? Magnetism from the love of the human heart, incoherence of the brain, influencing the magnetism of the planet. Is it possible that we can actually influence it to the degree that we shift that 12,000 year cycle? And in the simulation, I would argue everything's possible.
Yeah, well, it's interesting though, if it's a simulation, then who's deciding that this coherence, the heart and the mind, or the level of consciousness, or whatever the thing is that it's monitoring, who decides and who says, okay, we won't, we won't do it now. We won't do the reset now. Let's wait and see how they do.
I think it's a collective. It would have to be a collective choice, John. I mean, now you come back. If we're in a simulation, who benefits from a simulation? And the answer to that has always been it's the people in the simulation, because in a simulation,
Really?
yeah, in a simulation, you're learning something in a simulation that you're going to need when you go somewhere else. That's always been, the Hindus have always said.
How about the person or bit or who that built the simulation and is running the simulation? Wouldn't they have an interest in
I think they, yeah, I think they would, and we talk about this a lot in other programs. I think this is fascinating, John, because it suggests that we are probably the product of a highly advanced, technologically sophisticated society, number one, who has had computers more than the 70 years that we have, and that those computers are being used to model scenarios to help solve a problem. And the people in the simulation are helping to solve the problem. And then you say, what are the themes playing out in our world today? I mean, not in the weeds, but the big themes. It's about light and dark. It's about love and fear. It's about war and destruction or peace. And I can't help but think that if we are in a simulation, that we are striving for a way of to learn a way of living that transcends war, that has been the hallmark of civilization, that transcends the fear and that transcends the hurt and the suffering. The simulation, we are benefiting because we're the ones learning a way of being that will help us to transcend these things, and then all the other stuff like fills in the missing pieces. But I think that's the big theme. And who built it?
Maybe, I hope you're right about all this.
Well, maybe our civilization is advanced enough. Maybe we all participated. We said, let's build this simulation. So, and if you're going to try to solve a problem in one simulation, you're probably not going to stop with one. You're going to have multiple simulations running. I would, which means maybe that is what physics is calling parallel universes, or multi worlds, or multiple universes. Or when we dream at night and we experience these other realities, maybe that's what's happening. We're wandering into some of these other simulations when our consciousness is at ease in our sleep state, because in our waking state, we have to hold the focus right here. It may be the greatest disruptor of consciousness to align ourselves with the thinking that as part of the simulation, we are empowered to influence the simulation. That means we are powerful beings within this simulation. That's what the movie The Matrix was telling us all about. And except for the language, John, the language is new because of the science, but the concept that this is a temporary world, it's a dream, and the concept that within a simulation, the experiencer can always communicate outside of the simulation for guidance or for help. If you're in a flight simulator and you run into something you never run into, you say, hey guys, or a docking maneuver for SpaceX or whatever. We do the same thing. We close our eyes, we go into our heart, and we are communicating with maybe ourselves outside of the simulation, or maybe another intelligence or a higher power. Where does that voice come from? Where does that intuition, where do those insights come from? So except for the language, it's not that much different.
And what it's doing is driving you into this space that is very essentially unconsidered. I mean, it's one thing to say it's a simulation as a concept. It's another thing just to say, what's the implications for you and your life and your purpose and this time in life, and what if there is a reset? Then what do you do? And who are you then? And anyway, it just
I think it also opens the door to healthy potentials that bypass the unhealthy baggage that comes with so many of the concepts. So I think we're nearing the end of our conversation here. So I'm going to say, John, on the other side of the simulation, I'm going to buy you a tea, and you and I we'll sit and over tea, we'll talk about how our simulation went, and it'll be a lot of fun.
I would like to simulate that to be at a beach somewhere, maybe in Mexico somewhere. Be well. Take care.
Thanks so much.